everybody. My name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. Cheers. All right, we are going live today to teach you how to paint this beautiful painting called Nursing is a Work of Art. And I'm doing this for my mom. She is a nurse. And yeah, so everybody who knows someone who's a nurse or who is a nurse, you know how hard you've been working, especially lately in this past year. It's been really challenging. And so this is a very special painting that can be a great gift. And it's also very easy. You make it really easy. So I'm going to show you something really quick. We have a painting kit that makes this possible, and it has a traceable. So you can just line all this up with transfer paper that we have with it. So I've done the master for you, and then you can just copy my work every single time. So here it is, all done. Now initially it looks like a pencil drawing to start with, and then your kit comes with a permanent marker, and I definitely recommend this to go ahead and do all the hard line work. So you definitely want it to bleed through because there's this lots of layers happening here. So we want to preserve those layers, and we want that lettering to just pop right out over the top, and then we'll finish back over it with your permanent marker again at the very end of it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me get my little peepers on here. And let's see. In the background, here's my original. I actually have, you can either do like a really light cream or a white. You don't actually have to paint the background. You can just leave it just the way it is. A lot of people like to add a little bit of texture though. So I'm going to go ahead and come in with a really big brush here and just a little bit of water in my brush. And then I'm going to grab just a little bit of some white, and we'll go ahead and place in some of that texture in the background, and just kind of lightly feather this out here. And we'll just place this all around. Just to save time today, I am going to go ahead and just not go over the lettering. You can do that though, and then you can just refirm up all of your lettering at the very end. With your permanent marker, it's super easy to do that. But I'm just going to do a light little fade all around this with just a little bit of texture with the white. But into my space. So again, this part won't be very noticeable to you at all. It's just a little bit of feathering in. A little bit more white paint here into the background. Just add a little bit of texture here. Of course, your canvas is painted in prime white. So you can simply just leave it just the way it is. Right, so that gives us a nice little foundation. And then I'm going to come in with just a little bit more water. I'm just going to feather this out right around the lab here. So that I don't see anything as it dries. Way to go. Okay. So next up, what we're going to go ahead and do is work in our background color. So basically what we have going on in the heart here is I have a lovely little turquoise I'm going to work into all the background. And then we will have some beautiful pinks in our roses. And of course, you're welcome to do your roses any color that you want. So you can do just creams. I'll show you a little bit of some variety so that you can play with this and do whichever color you like. All right, so with our paint here, so you have, we've got a lovely paint kit. Isn't that exciting? So that comes with your kit. And our color that we'll be working in for these two will be some, just give a visual, some primary magenta. And let's see, I have some, I'm just going to open up a brand new. Let's just open up a brand new box. It's not that hard. Struggling here. And I can just show you everything. All right, so I'll take that later. It's like it's Christmas. We get to open up new paint. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to be using an even mix here of some cadmium red and primary magenta. We're going to mix those two together, and it will give us a really pretty cool red color. So let's go ahead and do that. So initially, when you take it off, you're going to see a little foil top there. So I do have to remove that so I can get to the paint. And these little tubes, they are just small enough. You definitely want to always put the cap back on so that you don't dry the paint. Don't be careful of that. But they will last through several paintings. But you do want to make sure acrylic paint sets up and dries really quickly, so you do have to watch that. All right, so I'm going to do a pea-size amount of some of that cadmium red. The cadmium red is rather warm. So I like to add a little bit of this primary magenta to it to cool it off a little bit. I'll do another pea-size amount, just like that. And then I'm going to mix these two together. So I'll have those two together just to make a really pretty cool red color. And I will definitely use some of that as a dark color accent. But I'm going to go ahead and add a lot of white to it to start with. I want to really lighten that up a little bit. And then just a little touch of water here. And a little bit more of that. So we're going to go ahead and do the base of our roses here to begin with. And you'll notice that the black lines will definitely bleed through, and that is exactly what we want. We want to be able to see that because that's going to help us map out our lettering later, and then also the details of the colors. Okay, now I'm going to run my brush a little bit. Checking this camera kind of goes up in there a little bit. I just did an update, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore. But we all know how technology is. You think you can solve everything, and then new issues come up. Let's see. Let's do a little bit of like a creamy roast here just for fun. A little bit of a mix here. And hello to everybody out there today. Merry Christmas Day Eve. All right, so I'm going to be using some primary yellow. Oh, that way. I see it's blurry to me. No, it could be me. I don't know. That's a hard one. That's a tough call. I've got reading glasses on, but that could be me. I have to go up the notch. All right, so we're going to do a little bit more of this primary yellow there, a pea-size amount. And I'm using my Mama brush. This is a 1/2 inch flat. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that white. Let's mix that together. Let's lighten it up quite a bit to more of a really pale yellow. And sweep that in there. At first, all of our roses definitely look like big lumpy circles. And that's okay. That's what we want. And just for fun, I don't know that I will use it. I'm kind of like in the mix of the pinks and the creams. But I will show you how to do a little touch of some lavender. We're definitely going to bring that in with some of our feathers, but you can do a violet rose as well. bit of violet, almost looks black. It is just a really dark purple, so we have to add a little bit of white to this. And then you'll get to see how pretty it is. It's amazing what happens when that white pushes in. So I'm going to do things like a little better in there. Give you a look. You can see if you like to look at that. And I'm going to go back to my light pinks here for the roses. Lots of white. It's really make this super light here. Very light pink. And let's get another one right here. I think I'm good. Touches, swishes of that light yellow. That'll also make sense here, but it looks a little odd right now. All right, now let's work on some patterns here in our roses. So I'm taking my little bit brush. This is just a round Taklon brush. I'm going to go into a little bit of that white, and then we're going to do some pattern work here over the rose. So just a white sketch, kind of looks like parentheses. And I just push that in a circular pattern all around. This will be our first layer here. And I'm going to stay a lot lighter in the center because I still have a lot of that lettering that I have to work in. So I'm going to keep that a lot lighter so that I don't lose that trace there. So we can keep on track with that. And then just like a light half circle or like a parentheses. And you kind of wiggle your hand a little bit as you do this. And this will be that first layer of our roses. We'll do the same thing here on the yellow ones, the little pale yellow. And it's okay if they have a little bit of pink in them, or a little bit of different color. So you kind of wiggle it, and it's almost like a little bit of a smudge to it too, as you wiggle it across. Now we're going to come in with a darker shade. So on each rose, whatever that darkest color is, so in this case it would be a little bit more of our just pure red here. So I'm going to take my little bit brush again, which is again just a round brush, round Taklon brush. I'm going right back into that red. And in the center, I'm going to make what looks like just a little bit of karma. That's a little shadow in the middle. And this paint is still red. I'm just going to lightly push into that white and get a soft brown. Basically, it's just a repeat of that same stroke that you just did with the little like half circles, but you're just coming in now with that little bit of a darker shade. And you can really be pretty carefree with this. So I'm almost just being kind of quick and light hand. A little touch of that structure. Again, that first stroke is almost like a little comma right in the middle, and then just little tiny half circles all the way around. Definitely get a little light blend into that white. I'm only doing the little centers on the yellows because I'm going to come back in with a different shade over the top there. And again, this is a mix. The darkest shade is a mix of our cadmium red and our primary magenta. Now, I'm going to mix up a really pretty coral to come back in over the top of that pale yellow. So for that, we'll be using a little bit of this cadmium orange. And then let's do a little pea-sized amount of that in the bottom. That is just a tiny amount. We don't need that much. And then we're going to mix that with that really light pink that we have. I should have put it in the phone. I'm trying to keep my brush. I'm going to have to readjust. I did something different today. And I noticed that my brush keeps poking the screen here. I haven't had that problem before, so I don't know what I'm doing different. But I'm doing something different. And I'm making a new challenge for myself. Isn't that wonderful? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up this beautiful peach color. And then let's go ahead and push in like little parentheses over the top of that pale yellow with a really nice coral color here. And they're basically just forming some really nice abstract petals. And you can add little touches of that peach into some of the other roses too. Right, so now we have all these beautiful roses coming out. And then, I know this looks a little bit, oh my goodness, what's happening here? But again, I was very light on any texture with the rose so that that word would still pop out, so that I can still see it at the end. The other thing you can do when you're working with this kit at home too is you can certainly, when I make this one, I'm going to make it to where the lettering can be a separate, and we can also customize this, by the way. So if you want like teaching as a work of art or something else, for example, you can certainly do that. Oh, there's somebody saying something to me. You absolutely love me to watch my techniques. Yay! Thank you. Oh, yeah, amid all the coronavirus ick. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Coronavirus ick. That is the best description I've ever heard of it. Yeah, and hi, Becky. Thank you so much. Hearts to you too. All right, so oh yes, what I was saying about the saying over the top, you can just be very carefree with this. And then when you do this at home, you're not going to be pressed for time like I am during a live teaching. So what you can do is you can paint all, basically all the floral, the heart, everything. And then you can actually just take all the lettering just right over the top with your transfer paper, make sure all the paint's dry. And then you can just overlay all the words and then do that at the very end. Just make sure your paint's dry. It'll be totally fine. It's so much easier on you working at home. Okay. So now, let's see here. We're going to do some beautiful greens. And so we have so many pretty greens in this kit. All right, so we've got some Viridian. And then we have some cadmium. And some bright yellow green. So let's take the thing out here. And here's a tiny plate. So let's do some of that bright yellow green. There's my sentences. But my husband says, you don't finish your sentences. course I do. And then if you're around other women, they will read your mind and finish for you. And then, but yeah, especially as I watch myself on film, I'm like, oh, he's right. I really don't finish my sentences. Yeah. He's like, I know. Okay. You're right again, honey. Then he goes, what? I'm right? And I goes, you are. All right, so there's some cadmium green. And then let's do some of this beautiful green, which is a lot like, it has a nice teal quality to it. Let's look at that one. There, that's better. All right, so we have all those beautiful colors loaded up. And let's see here. Let's go back to using that beautiful little bit brush again. This is just a Taklon brown brush. And let's start to watch what happens when we mix these two together. So we'll have some leaves that will just be a nice mix of both of these here. And then of course there's some we'll add in little bits of detail with the darker shade too. And by the way, you can also add a little bit of white too. See how that takes it to even a lighter minty color. So that's also really nice. And make a little white here. Just have that in the bottom. So now we've got some fun stuff to make sense to. And as I push into the paint, the other thing I can do is go ahead and twist it out. So I'll twist it between my fingertips. So it loads the brush, but it also twists it into a nice fine point. And then we're going to go ahead and work into these pretty little leaves here. And I just touch into sometimes a little bit of the darker shades as I go into different sections. And the other thing you can do too is just allow the brush to do a lot more of the work for you. So for example, I'll just push down into all this paint. The belly of the brush is nice and full. And you can actually just do a nice press onto the surface. And that just gives you some really nice texture. And the fullness will come out into the thickness of the petal. But that shape of the brush is actually a nice shape of a small petal like this. So you can actually just do a nice firm press onto it and just a little bit of a pull. And just that one little touch there will make some really nice leaves. Another way to think of it is like a little parentheses, and little parentheses. And also gives you that nice shape. And then a bit lighter. So again, the color mix here, bright yellow green, cadmium green, and then also some green. These bigger leaves definitely have more of that stroke to them, like parentheses, parentheses, and then just fill in the center. And the reason why I reference that common shape is just because we're all very familiar with making it. So it helps your brain connect to a stroke that you're very familiar with, and then that way you're not very intimidated if you think, well, I can do parentheses. So did that one as an accident, but that's how easy these leaves are. I accidentally just tapped my canvas But you can see how, oh, well, that makes a nice leaf. And again, that's because the brush has a leaf shape to it. So you can see how that already looks like a leaf. So if you just smack your canvas on accident a few times, and that might just give you the success you were wanting anyway. See? I don't have to make it too hard. A little bit more white and more green. And I can always add a few more flavor too. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and work into some of that beautiful background. So let's mix up some lovely, just like a really light turquoise, kind of, yeah, really light turquoise. All right, so we're going to be using some primary cyan blue. And I've got all those beautiful greens nearby. We're going to borrow some of those as well. We have our white nearby. And let's go a little bit more white just in case. A lot of water. Here's why I'm using a lot of water. You probably don't have to. I'm going to try to make mine really light and transparent so that my words will bleed through. So I've got a little bit of that blue and the white. And now let's grab some Viridian. So I did a touch of each. So some Viridian, primary cyan blue, and then the white. I usually push in a lot more white. That will bring me to my beautiful turquoise color. I just want a really light wash of this over the background. You can almost have it, the basic quality that I'm wanting is just more of like a watercolor feel to it almost. So I'm using my mama brush and in the kit, she is a 1/2 inch Taklon brush. Very versatile brush. So I'll use her in all the really large areas that I can. And then you can see how I'm definitely going to have to switch over to like my little bit brush to get into the tiny little corners there. Got some tiny areas to look into. You can definitely feel how it's a little bit translucent, has that watercolor look. So that's one of the things that I really do like about acrylic paint is you can definitely play with it. You can add a lot of water to it and create the look of a watercolor painting. It's actually a lot more forgiving. I am getting a little bit of a fire. See if that fixes it. Okay. So I got that. I'm in the sunroom. So I'm in the sunroom and my curtains were open. Letting the beautiful sunlight in. And it gives me glares at certain times of the day. And only in the winter. So get that harsh winter light. So more of this just really translucent turquoise. And again, I'm trying to use my mama brush as much as I can into the bigger areas. And I have to switch gears pretty quick. Alright, so let's go with a little bit brush. This is just a round Taklon brush. Let's get a nice visual on that. And then this is what I'll have to use to go ahead and get into those smaller areas here. This is working quite nicely. So, and I've already got like a little puddle of water on my plate here. And that's very helpful. It just really helps that paint kind of flow into all of those little areas where I want it to flow into. It's very little effort actually. Just one little touch and it actually just kind of flows into all of the negative space that's just there. And just a light translucent wash. Not over the top. And I know I've got that one weird little purple feather happening. I promise I will add more purple. Just realizing I didn't quite go back and do more purple. Now I'm going to add more. We'll add more little accents right over the top. To help that look not so strange there. So that's really pretty. And then what I'm really liking about all that water being in the mix this time with the turquoise, again, you can feel how it definitely has that look of watercolor where you'll feel a little bit more of that bleed and heavier concentrations in certain areas and lighter areas in others. So that's actually what we were really going for there. So now what we need to start to work on, I'm going to go ahead and, speaking of that little bit of violet happening, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more of that. So we've got our violet here, and then let's go ahead and work in a little bit of white. Right, so I'm using my little bit brush, which again is just a round Taklon brush. Do a little spin. So this spinning action will load up the brush with paint, then it also spins into a nice little point. And then I'm going to go ahead and touch down for a few of these little, almost looks like little tiny purple leaves. I just want those as little accents. It's the basic same shape as the leaf, and so it feels like you're making little parentheses and little parentheses, and then you just fill that in. And I just want these little touches of this purple and lavender just all over. A little bit more of a white accent in there. So now we're pretty much at the point where we need to go ahead and do a little bit more of our word definition. And let's see. So working at home, you want to make sure and just let everything dry. And then I'm going to have a little bit more of an issue with doing that. It's not going to work for me. I just need to go ahead and push through and do it over the top. But for beginners, don't fight it. Just let it dry, and then so much easier. So I'm coming back in with just black over the top. And then speaking of the easiest route would be to let it all completely set up and dry. All your lettering should either be, a bleed through or do the step where you just plate and do all the lettering at the end, put on a little traceable transfer paper right on top, and do that as your last step. It'll come right on over the top of everything. So either way, you can paint it on or use the permanent marker and just write it on. Most beginners prefer the permanent markers. Definitely in terms of you're asking what would be easy, definitely permanent markers, but it's certainly easier. So I've got a little bit of water to contain there. I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to do a little bit of black right over the top here. So there's my is, and then more of that nature pushing it. Get this one here. So what I did there, I just did a clean brush and then just kind of look that away. I'm just getting that excess water off of there. Again, this little issue I'm having is not something that you'll have to contend with. You'll just want it to set up and dry. Unless you're in a huge hurry, which you should be, you should be relaxing and taking your time with it. Alright, so now we've got, oh, so sorry. So now we have our excess out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and go right back in with my little bit brush, little twists of black here. And then I'm going to go right into my better areas here over the top. I'm going to curl up in here and there. And this word will be work, basically. I might have to grab, sometimes with your black, if you're going to paint through, sometimes you may have to add a little bit of water to your black paint. So it is much easier to work with. This gives it an easier flow. And you also want to be sure that when you're coming in over loops, that you definitely go around the loop so that you preserve your negative space in the letter, or else that will obscure that lettering. It won't be recognizable. So that can be a tricky little thing there. Let's see, we've got our work part. We've done it already. It definitely helped to get rid of some of that excess water and just work on a dry surface, that way we don't have any bleed. And because you do want to make sure that your letters are precise over the top. Alright, so now there it is. Nursing is a work of art. Yay! Alright. And then the only thing I'll work on a little bit here is just maybe a few more little white accents. Maybe a few more here over this little rose, now that I've got my lettering down. I'm going to just get a few more of these little white highlights. Now, you can certainly just leave it just the way it is. Another fun detail that you can add will be little dots of flowers. And this is a fun little technique using the end of the brush, so the wooden handle part. And I'm going to go ahead and just dip into some white paint. And so you can see it right there on the end of the brush. And you can add fun little dots in your design too. And I think this is a nice touch as well. So that's some color. Well, color would improve too if you do that. You can have little red dots too. If you don't quite get enough impression the first time, you can also just re-layer it. It does work really nicely. You can just basically come right back in and just hit it again with another dot. I usually do mine in clusters of 3. That way it looks like a little garden, like a little flower. So I'll just sprinkle these all around here. think we are done. So, beautiful. Oh, and thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. Y'all are so awesome. Merry Christmas Eve to everybody. I don't know if I'll be going live again today. Possible. But I will probably be doing a lot more of my time-lapse paintings. So I'll be bringing those to you later as well. So I've got a lot more painting to do today, but you'll be seeing some really, it's the time-lapse is one we've seen like in fast-paced motion. And I like to mix those up and put those on TikTok too. So they will, that's another fun place to check me out. Tipsy Artist over there on TikTok as well. So, all right. So, yay. So, if you have any beautiful nurses in your life that you would love to support, or if you are a nurse and you think this is pretty, we do have the painting kit online, tipsyartist.com. And this one is for my mom. So she is a nurse, and I'm so proud of her. I'm very thankful for her and everything that she's doing for so many different people right now to keep them healthy and well. So, yay! Thank you to all the nurses. We appreciate y'all so very, very much. All right, so y'all have a beautiful rest of the day, and we'll see you soon.